Imagine a pirate so feared that kings paid him tribute, cities trembled at the mention of his name, and fleets vanished beneath his cannons. Now imagine his most dangerous enemy was the Pope. No, this isn't a tale spun from the pages of some wild medieval fantasy. This actually happened. A battle of will, diplomacy, and firepower between the most powerful religious figure in Christendom and a pirate lord who once ruled the sea like a dark monarch. A man who didn't just plunder towns, he demanded respect from emperors. This is the story of Barbarossa, the pirate king of the Mediterranean, and Pope Paul III, who dared to challenge him. To understand how this unlikely showdown came to be, we have to travel back to the 16th century, a time when the Mediterranean was less a sea and more a battlefield. The Ottoman Empire was expanding westward, and Spain was pushing east. Stuck in the middle? The papacy, small Italian city-states, and a whole lot of merchant ships caught in the crossfire. Enter Barbarossa, a name that would send a chill down any European spine. Born as Khizr, he was the son of a humble potter on the island of Lesbos. But he and his brother Aruj turned to piracy, not for greed but for survival. Christians called them barbarians. Muslims hailed them as heroes waging jihad on the sea. Together, the brothers carved out a pirate empire so powerful, the Ottoman Sultan made Barbarossa admiral of the entire Ottoman navy. He wasn't just a pirate, he was a kingmaker. And across the sea, in the eternal city of Rome, sat Pope Paul III. He was no fool. He knew that Barbarossa wasn't just looting ships, he was projecting Ottoman power into Christian Europe. Paul III saw the sea not as a highway of commerce, but a front line in a holy war. The Mediterranean had become a chessboard, and the pirate king was flipping it over. In 1535, the Pope watched uneasily as Barbarossa took Tunis from the Spanish-backed ruler and turned it into a haven for Muslim corsairs. Dozens of Christian villages were raided, coastal towns in Italy were sacked, and in 1538, at the Battle of Preveza, Barbarossa dealt a humiliating blow to a Christian fleet led by Andrea Doria, a fleet that had the blessing of the Pope himself. The defeat was stunning. Barbarossa had used cunning tactics and intimate knowledge of the sea to annihilate a larger force. The Holy League, a coalition of European naval powers including the Papal States, had been routed. Pope Paul III was furious. He did something rare, even radical. He began organizing yet another Holy League. This time, it wasn't just Spain and Venice. It was to be a spiritual war, backed by indulgences, money from the Vatican treasury, and even direct appeals to other monarchs to take up arms against Barbarossa. But here's the twist. Paul III didn't just see this as a military conflict. He saw it as a theological one. Barbarossa was more than a pirate. He was a symbol of rising Islamic power. Every town he razed, every Christian he took as a slave, was viewed not just as a crime, but as blasphemy. The Pope framed the conflict as a crusade, not in the Holy Land, but on the sea. Still, Paul III was a realist. He needed allies. Enter Charles V, the Holy Roman Emperor, and King Philip II of Spain. The Pope tried to play them both, offering spiritual rewards in exchange for military action. He even offered to fund a fleet using church gold, a scandalous move that enraged some cardinals who argued that the Vatican had no business fighting pirates. But Paul didn't care. He knew that if Barbarossa wasn't stopped, Rome itself could become a target. Meanwhile, Barbarossa wasn't idle. He mocked the Pope's efforts, even sending letters to Christian rulers offering peace, on his terms. At one point, he proposed a truce with Venice if they'd stop aiding the papal navy. Some city-states accepted his offers. Others resisted and were punished for it, burned to ash, their citizens taken as slaves to Algiers or Constantinople. What makes this whole saga stranger is that neither man ever met face to face. This wasn't a duel fought on a single battlefield. It was a war of influence. Naval battles were fought, yes, but so were battles in courts, in secret meetings, and in letters written in blood and prayer. Pope Paul III wasn't a warmonger by nature. He's better remembered for launching the Counter-Reformation and convening the Council of Trent. But during these chaotic years, he was as much a strategist as any general. He funded ships, gave orders to commanders, and even approved raids on Ottoman ports in North Africa. And then, suddenly, Barbarossa retired. In 1545, he handed over command of the Ottoman fleet and returned to Constantinople, where he died in 1546, wealthy, respected, and undefeated at sea. His death marked the end of an era, the last time a pirate could wield such global power. Paul III outlived him by 2 years, dying in 1549. He never saw Barbarossa fall in battle. He never got the final victory he hoped for. But he had done something remarkable. He had mobilized Christian Europe against a pirate, raised fleets through faith, and turned a seemingly lawless war into a religious movement. History doesn't often remember Paul III as the pope who fought a pirate, and it doesn't often remember Barbarossa as a statesman. But in this strange and forgotten chapter of history, the line between pirate and politician, between priest and general, blurred beyond recognition. Their battle was not just over land or sea, it was over the soul of the Mediterranean. And in many ways, that battle never truly ended.